Welcome, OCU community and friends. I am Dr. Talia Carroll. My pronouns are she and her, and I am Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Oklahoma City University. We are so excited to join you to the Blue Table Talks, an initiative to bring together alumni and students to talk about really exciting, thought-provoking, and important topics. And today we're talking about representation in marketing. And I'm so thrilled to have two amazing humans with me today to bring their expertise, their passion, and experience as we talk just for a few minutes about representation in marketing. And I'll even share with you a little something funny as we had a little conversation before we started recording today. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Chris Hudson and Brianna Shaw to the table, the literal blue table. And I'd love to start, Brianna, with you. Share with us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, so my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a junior marketing major, and I'm also a social media minor, which is one of our newer programs, and I love it, and it goes hand in hand with marketing, of course. And I'm very involved on campus. I used to be president of Black Student Association, and I do a lot of stuff in SGA, Student Government Association. I'm currently the secretary of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which that role has taught me so much. And I'm also a resident assistant. So that's another one of my bigger, more time-consuming roles, but also it's given me so much.
Yes, you're doing all the things,
all
right?
The things. That is what we say.
All the things. Dr. Hudson, how about you? Share with us a little bit about yourself.
So, sure, thanks. So my career spans probably 40 plus years in the communications industry. I had the pleasure of working on all three sides of the marketing business. So in the agency side of the business, I actually started my career in media sales. And then I've also spent a significant amount of time as a client. Today, I really focus specifically on education marketing. But the claim to fame, the true claim to fame is my family's history with Oklahoma City University. I did my undergraduate work here. My wife went to law school here. Both our sons are graduates, and their wife and fiance are also graduates. So we have some pretty deep ties here on 23rd Street. So we're very happy about that.
I love it. So like you're shining brightly for real. Like you are true stars.
Complete gold stars.
Across the generations. I love it.
Across generations, across all of the years that we have been different things from, chiefs, and we obviously abandoned that intelligently and became stars. My children would like to tell you that I was actually here when we were gold bugs, but I don't go quite that far back. But yeah, very excited to be here.
I love that. I imagine some folks who might be watching are like, the gold bugs?
Yeah.
And so
it's in there. Check it out.
Everyone's going to walk away with learning something new today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing all of your energy and expertise today. And I imagine we'll get to have some fun conversation, but I'll start here. So before we all sat down together to really get ready for the conversation, we were talking about some movies. And so more recently, Encanto came out, and we're loving it. And I really was thinking about, just in a moment, all of the movies and animated films that I have really loved. And I imagine maybe even 15, 20 years ago, I wasn't thinking about, like, did I see myself in movies? Did I feel connected to music? But now I do, right? Because we actually do have really helpful and good representation across a range of identities. And so just wanted to throw that out there for our viewers, that we had a little conversation, so maybe that'll come up. But since we're talking about representation generally in marketing, if there's anything in general or just broadly you all want to share as we get the conversation started, feel free to jump in.
Yes, I would love to start.
Okay, sure.
So when you first came to me with the topic, I was thrilled because this is something I think about often. And especially currently I'm a junior, and so I'm really deep into my major marketing classes. And I'm also doing an internship, and it's a marketing agency. So I'm learning a lot about agency life, which is very, very unique, and I'm learning a lot. But I just wanted to start off by saying it really feels like, especially with marketing specifically, that can be so broad, but it really, I think we're all noticing how fast marketing is starting to move and change. And I think us as students are really feeling that because we're still taking certain classes that either don't translate as much as they did to current work, or we're having to, for example, I have a social media minor, and those are blending together for me in my internship and other work that I found. So I think it's very interesting in the time that we're in as far as marketing. It's so broad. We could talk about various aspects of marketing. I haven't touched sales as much, especially as much as you, but I'll talk about a little bit about what I'm interested in, what pulled me to marketing. Okay. So I'm such a creative that I started off as business admin, and then I specified it to marketing because I was just so creative. But there's so much more to marketing, and so I've had to learn about sales, and now I'm learning more about digital marketing. So I just really wanted to start off by saying I'm really feeling it as a student, how marketing's changing and how broad it is, and there's so much to it.
Just to climb on with that, I mean, that's an excellent point. I mean, today, obviously, I come from an age when so many things were done from a legacy perspective. And when you talked about marketing or advertising, I mean, we were talking traditional types of advertising, radio and television, outdoor, those newspaper. And today, pretty much everything has shifted toward digital. As I have headed up some marketing departments and spent some time in marketing, I mean, it's really very much the first step that most organizations make today is into the digital realm, and really trying to understand how that can shape and guide their messaging comes from digital. And my style of marketing, the traditional stuff, really has kind of slipped more to a support role than as a primary role. So you're right in the step, you're right where you need to be. Bringing that forward is definitely going to pay dividends for you as your career blossoms. So continue to go with that, because that's folks like me are having to get folks like you to help us understand and get it done, because it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. But so keep going with that. That's really good. You know, just from the standpoint of talking about representation and marketing, I think I would probably say that marketing is not distinctively different than other forms of business. I mean, when you're talking representation, I have found in my career, you know, wonderful folks and wonderful opportunity to succeed and to continue to move through it. But it's not unlike kind of other walks of life that we have, and we have to continue to push that envelope and continue to, I hope it's okay to say, demand opportunity and demand representation. And this is a great place to get prepared for that and show your chops. So keep going. Let us know how we can help. So
I love this idea of like demanding, and sorry to interrupt, Brianna. I think about the first time I saw what I believe to be a brown baby on a box of diapers. And I'm in the store walking down the aisles and thinking, oh my gosh, right? As a younger person, I'm like, we've made it, right? Like now, like brown folks get to be on these sorts of like on this packaging, and it felt so good, right? So to now be in a space where there's anticipation of like, not only demand, but I anticipate to see various identities, various people represented. And so I appreciate you saying the demand, because things don't necessarily change unless there is some demand. And so I appreciate that.
Well, I think if we all just kind of watch what we see on television or representation in movies, as we were talking earlier, the industry has come to the realization that it has to represent its audience. It has to represent its target audience in the messaging that they distribute. And even when that representation may not necessarily be something that you pick up on visually, if you just watching television today, it's really trying to encompass not just brown folks, but every kind of folks and people of various walks of life. From a lifestyle perspective, I mean, that's something that I see quite a bit, just because of some family members I have. That's just ensuring that they're included in that. And as marketers, you're part of the family now. As marketers, as marketers, it's really incumbent upon us to ensure that we push our clients. And so that demand part really comes about pushing our clients and pushing our senior executives to say we need to do better, we can do better, and here's an opportunity to do better. So
yes, and that's really empowering to think about how us as marketers have so much influence when it comes to things like representation. It's really empowering to hear that, but it really made me think, instantly I thought of, there was this image in I think it was some sort of science book, textbook or something like that, and it went viral, and it was of someone pregnant, and so they were brown, and it went viral because people started to realize that they've never really seen in textbooks, and especially when it comes to medical things, whether you're learning about the body or anything like that, people were starting to realize that it wasn't commonly seen. And so it made me think of kind of what you were saying, Dr. Carroll, about not even noticing that you don't see certain things until you see it. And just like that textbook, it went viral. So it's really empowering that marketing has so much influence. And now that more people are starting to be aware of representation and how important that is, I think it's very, very interesting to see how things are changing.
You really put a dart in it there. You know, it's we sometimes don't know what we don't know, but then once the bell has been rung, then it makes it much easier to recognize the absence of what we think we should see, or what we may even have told ourselves that we've seen, but we really haven't. So I tell my students all the time, you know, you have to think like a marketer, even though you may not necessarily be a marketer, because I teach some folks who are not necessarily in the marketing vein. But even when you're watching television, or you're on social media, or listening to the radio, you need to think like a marketer and understand that certain organizations and certain companies are going to embrace that and others aren't. And you as a marketer and you as a consumer need to be a part of the party and be responsible with your dollars.
My immediate I was trying to keep it in, but it didn't work. It makes me think a lot about how what we see and what we consume helps to socialize us, right? So when we talk about, right, and I'm thinking very intentionally about folks of color, right? What folks consume tells them about a group of people. And so when we think about the good and bad of marketing in general, like we want to make sure, right, that there are positive images, that there are positive things that folks can experience about a range of people across a range of identity. And so much of what I'd say older school, right, marketing would be just to reinforce certain perspectives that maybe weren't accurately representative of people. And so I think there's also a lot of unlearning happening for folks, right? And so, right, I get to see the babies on the diapers, and I'm like, yes, this is amazing. And I think there's some, of course, other ways for us to go as we consider positive ways of representation.
I was gonna say this instantly made me think of, it was a conversation we were having during one of my marketing classes, and I would love to hear your perspective, Dr. Hudson, especially. It was about who influences who. And so as we're talking about representation, and as time goes on, more people are starting to be aware how important that is. I'm always curious about because you said that we're marketers and we're also consumers. Who influences who, and the fact of times are changing, but I'm very curious of your thoughts of when it comes to being a marketer and putting something out, when it comes to representation versus maybe if the consumers are the ones that are demanding it and then the marketers are starting to market that more. I'm very curious your thoughts on who influences who.
So I'll give you an agency perspective, since you're doing your internship in an agency. I mean, obviously the clients, the people writing the checks, typically have that final decision, but we want to believe, I choose to believe, that they come to us as marketing professionals. Again, you're in the family now. So they come to us as marketing professionals to ask our opinion, to get our insight, to guide them on what that needs to look like. And what that needs to look like is inclusion. And I have said since I first started thinking about this and talking about this. If you're walking this earth and sucking this oxygen, you need to be included. So you need to have not only a seat at the table, but an opportunity to populate that table too. So with what's on the table. So I think who to answer your question directly, who guides who? I'd like to say we as marketers need to guide those decisions that are going to be made by those organizations. They're ultimately going to have to make that decision, but hopefully we have the opportunity to provide insight and guidance to help them see what maybe they don't see, or maybe what they don't know. So
that's interesting to me, because although I can say I definitely want to be represented and see more representation overall, not everybody does. And so especially at the time I'm at, when it comes to internships and looking for careers, it's interesting to me thinking about influence and my role as a marketer and what I want versus what a client would want, and what changes I would have to make in order to do that as a job. And
I want to say that more often than not, it's just lack of knowledge. I started using the I word, but I'm not going to do that. So it's a lack of knowledge, and when presented with the knowledge, when educated about what the opportunity is, most folks are going to come along. Most folks are going to get on board and understand that, oh, that's something I just never thought about. It's not where I live, so because it's not where I live, it's not something that I ever think about. But now that you present that for me, now that you've laid that out for me, yeah, that's probably something we need to be cognizant of, because almost every industry out there has a blend of customer base, and they want to speak to that customer base effectively, and that's just something they haven't thought about. And so if we do our job of highlighting that and bringing that to the forefront, I've yet to see a situation where somebody just flat out says, no, we're not doing that because of. It's always been a situation where, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. That needs to happen. Or let's at least talk about it. And I think if we can at least get a discussion started about it, we've made a pretty decent leap forward. So
that's good to know. I could talk about this forever, because these are the thoughts that I have, especially in our conversations in the classroom and outside of the classroom. But it makes me think of just target markets. And it makes me think of the word majority, like our biggest target market and who we're marketing to. And that's what I'm thinking of when it comes to influence, who influences who. And, depending on, if I'm at a company, depending on our biggest target market, that's who we're going to put our efforts towards, because that's our biggest.
Well, much like the marketing industry, that target market is changing very rapidly. And it is not what it was. Almost any organization, today, their target market is not what it was when I was in your space, back in the 80s. It's not what it was then. And so the diversity of almost any target market today it calls for, almost demands, there's a demand again, almost demands a change in who we speak to and how we speak to them. So I think you'll find that most places you're going to wind up are aware of that and are willing to maybe reshape and rethink how they may have done it in the past, and recognize that my target today is not what my target was 20 or 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago. So as population change, so do targets. So. Were you getting ready to ask something?
I was. Oh my gosh! But I lost whatever that good question was, because I was so enthralled by all the things you were sharing. And we are actually nearing the end of our time. So I'm wondering if either of you have a parting thought or something you want those who are watching to think about as we close our time together.
I'll just share for you, because this is really for you. And we talked about this a little bit before. I think connection is really the key. Connection really has to kind of be your keystone. Plug yourself in as much as you can, any place you can. You've got it sounds like you might have a few hours between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning when you're not doing anything.
Right.
But seriously, I mean, connecting to the industry with all that you have to bring to it is really what's going to push you forward. This business is really all about who you know. And that's the best thing I can recommend. As I look back over my career, most of the best moves have been made because I knew somebody. And connection works really, really well. And you'll be surprised how many people you'll run into as you go across your career. So connect in, plug in.
Yeah, that's a good piece for me to take away, definitely. And I think about that as I'm sitting here with you all. That's huge, and so thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
We talked about a lot, and I know you and I could probably continue to talk
and
about
we will
various things, but I took away a lot, and I think it's very interesting, specifically marketing and representation. And I know in the classroom we talk about marketing versus manipulation and ties to that, and how it can get to that place. And I really enjoyed our conversation about who influences who. I think this is all interesting, especially for me specifically as a Black woman. It definitely relates to me professionally and personally. So I'm empowered by this conversation.
I'm excited for you. A little jealous. I wish I could go back. So yeah, right?
Come on back.
Yeah.
No?
Find that fountain of youth to let me know.
We'll create something. We'll create something.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Brianna and Dr. Hudson, for being here and engaging in such a rich and exciting conversation. Of course, we could sit here, I'm sure, for a much longer time and engage. But hopefully, folks who are watching, that you also took something away, that you're thinking about how representation influences you, and how you influence marketing as well. And that you are helping to nudge and make change and help us to really make sure that all are included and all are represented. We are so excited you came to the table today, and we look forward to seeing you at the table next time.